Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Breadcrumbs Project. And we are picking up where we left off yesterday because enough enough of the video survived yesterday that uh, this is something we can work with. But I am recording from now on locally on my device. So hello and welcome to the Breadcrumbs Project. I am Euripides Crumb, the founder of the Breadcrumbs Project, and this has always been started off and continues to be a search of history and the actual breadcrumbs of history, not what's on paper. Although now we see that what's on paper is actually helping out a whole lot. And this really started with me wondering why Latin America is called Latin America, because Spanish and Latin have very little to do with each other. Very, very little. Same with Italian. So they are not similar languages. There may be words and phrases here and there, but for the most part, they are two totally and distinct languages. So why would Latin America be called Latin America? And my theory, which is pretty Loctite, is the Latins. I wouldn't say the Romans because that's just a very broad term and makes an unacceptable picture of what the Latins were. They were Latins, and they were a very very big empire in Europe, and not only in Europe but straddling Europe. So they they around, I don't know, by the build out of this map, they had been here for a while. So there were Latins quietly leaving Galicia and España and coming over to the far side of Mexico and establishing everything, getting everything set up. And as I look at this with all of the little, I'm going to call them Aztec for familiarity. The language is Nahuatl, but it's the forerunner of the Aztec language and the Aztec people. Something to note on this map is A, the concentration of small Aztec villages inside the colored area and the absolute lack of them. And if you've been with me in a couple of the episodes, we know that these phrases up here are talking about savage people. This group here is naked and they only want to hunt. Other group over here are carnivores. So all of this is wild, savage area, according to the Romans. Although this mine right here is the largest producer of silver, so we know that they're extracting a vast amount of silver. Pretty sure it was not as useful for them here in Mexico. That silver was making it all the way over into Europe, and I would venture to say gold as well, but silver is mentioned all throughout here, and it was making all the way to Europe to pay people silence. And something that we don't understand that the maritime community back then was very much a brotherhood, an occult brotherhood. A lot of them had their own language that they spoke, and that's kind of how Portuguese came to be a language only understood by the Portuguese and the Galicians, because Portuguese has a little Galician in there, so they understand each other. But it was basically a language to separate themselves from Spain and as a kingdom and as a buffer for all of the silver coming in from Mexico, from the far side of Mexico. And as I mentioned, for a while there was too much silver in in Spain, too much. So they had to. Um, it got very devalued in Spain. You just and so yeah, I guess because of vast quantities coming from Mexico and coming from the far side. So this begs the question. This begs the question of, oh, hey guys, sorry, Baron of Arizona, I finally got my schedule right. Sorry, I've been absent. Very interested in this. Jesuit Black Nobility, Latin? Jesuit Black Nobility, Latin. Yeah, Baron, I would say so. I would say so. Welcome back. AI is unsafe, man. Terrible experience with AI. If you want to catch up on the back episodes. Whew. Anyway, um, so we have and I'm talking to the Baron of Arizona in the private chat, not the private chat, but the live stream. And I believe Baron is coming from uh, if I'm not mistaken, you're coming from YouTube. Yes, you're coming from YouTube. All right. So uh, yeah, jump in the chat, anybody, and if this is after the live stream and it's a posted video, I will go check the comments. So if you have any comments to make, please make them. I'm a really small channel right now, so I will answer all of my comments. That's a fact, Jack. Um, Jesuits. Yeah, yeah, Baron, I would say so because it was the Jesuits, Ignatius, which means to light a fire in Latin, was was the yeah, yeah, the Jesuits were the ones that basically caused the Dark Age, and they're the ones that reordered the education of all the European universities, the schools, all the education came through the Catholic Church and through the Jesuits. So there you have it. And yeah, that is a great connection. Uh, so how did this happen? I mean, logistically, this is pretty impressive. Okay, they either sailed the Magellan Straits or there previously was a Panama Canal that they were taking advantage of. Whether they dug it or how the canal got there, I don't know. I don't know. But I can tell you this now that I'm looking at all the cathedrals, all the older buildings, all the stuff throughout the country of the older cities, you definitely see Latin construction techniques, techniques that we no longer use or capable of using. Our architecture now sucks. The modern architecture sucks. So everything that is around the Americas comes from the Latins, comes from the Romans. You can see it in the architecture, and especially the city of London, which is a Latin Roman uh, hidden place. So then yesterday after the show, I went and did some digging and looking at some old maps that I looked at, and I thought I remembered seeing this. And it's this one right here. Yes. Nope, not that one. It is. Sorry, guys. Yes, here it is. All right. So this is Reini Mexicano sus nove Hispania Ludoviciana nen Angelia. All right, so just a bunch of different places here on the map that we're going to talk about. But Ludoviciana is Latin for Louisiana. But also, Ludovici Anna is I won the game, Anna. That's what happens with Latin sometimes. But all of these place names are Latin. Nova Mexico. It's just giving an indicator. So, it's, some words you think are French by looking at it. Les Illinois, but les is actually a Latin word for the. So those are some of the crossovers of Latin to French and Latin to Spanish that gives a map the feeling that it is French or Latin, what have you. So all of this is Latin. And we still have Nova Galicia right here and at the border, okay? At the not the border, the Tropicus Canceri. The oh Lord, what do we call it? Ah, it's escaping me right now. That happens. Um, but Nova Galicia, enter Nova Galicia when you cross over the Tropicus of Canceri. And then up here, we have outgrowth from the Iberian Peninsula because we have Nova Vizcaya, and that's New Biscay, New Basque in New Basque land in Latin. So we have expanded from here, Nova Galicia, Nova España, up to Nova Vizcaya. So it is breathtaking, breathtaking because Latin, and they've been here a long, long, long time. So this original map is old. Definitely not from 1665. And this map, this atlas, it doesn't actually give a date either. So the date that they attribute it to, you just can't tell. But by the style of the clothing, this looks like medieval times. I mean, I would say 1800s, 1800, 1700 by the style of dress, but by the 1800s, we were already speaking English over here, not Latin. How that happened? Because I think the Latins invented English because too many people were learning Latin and understanding what they were saying and writing. So they invented English, which is based on the Latin alphabet, and became a whole new language. And I talked about this on yesterday's show towards the end. But the Old English of England sounds like a very Finnish language. It sounds very, Finnish, Icelandic. It's sounds nothing like the current English that they're speaking now and modern English. And these are writings from the 1400s and the 1500s. So English had not made it over to um, Great Britain by then. So yes, so the English taught themselves English, but in a different style. So the big question is, how did all this start over here? Because they had boats, they had sailboats, pretty sophisticated ones, ones with ladders where they could beach themselves and get off the boat or board another boat. So how did this happen? Did they did they go through the Magellan Straits, or was there a Panama Canal that used to exist there prior? There was a Panama Canal that existed there prior. There it is. And it's big. It's impressively big. And this is how the Romans were able to do, the Latins were able to do what they did. They took advantage of that Panama Canal. Now, I had looked up the Panama Canal, and if you look at it, where it is in the same exact location of where ours is. Okay? Same exact location. Amazing the level of detail of of this map. Okay? They were very, very, very sophisticated back then. And again, you see the absolute spread of civilization, not a hint of Spanish. Not a hint of Spanish anywhere on this map. I have significant doubts of the colonization theory of the Spanish coming over here and being colonizers. It was already colonized. They were received by a a good people, a non-warring people. No, I'm not gonna say that because here they got all kind of war going on. So these are the efforts to keep other countries out of this area, especially here. This had to be heavily protected. So if we go to the satellite image, we're going to see something pretty amazing, okay? Because the Panama Canal is a lot smaller than it was back then. Here's the entrance. But what you can see is the lush green here and through here, the absolute lush green. So this happens in silted areas because silt is a nutrient rich loam, a type of soil. So over the many years of not being used, it's silted up and not maintained until modern people, 20th century, found it, and they didn't have to do much work at all. You know that We have images of the Panama Canal, and they're just through mountain and through just solid machines and big machines and going through mountains, and that's not it at all. They're going through silted up areas, and then I believe this is the outflow. So yeah, there's the canal. There it is. So no, it's pretty much a very natural feature. The stories that they told us in my childhood and the books and magazines I saw, that they were blasting through mountains. This was an epic adventure and da da da. Not at all. All they had to do was put some locks in the mouths of the gates of the entrance and exit of a pre-existing Panama Canal. This is a pre-existing feature. So, uh, yes, it is. It is an absolute wild thought, but I have the old map to prove it, and we can see the difference in the green from the natural to the loamy. And then again, good shot of the canal itself, which by here it's very much a natural feature. There's some kind of old building here. Well, that's interesting. Yes, to archaeologists, lumps and bumps are interesting, and I am definitely an archaeologist. Not a licensed one, and I didn't get brainwashed in college. So I'm a free thinking one, and that's how I'm able to come up with these theories. And this one's a huge one, that the Panama Canal was a pre-existing channel, much bigger and better maintained. Look at that. Look at that. So, yeah, somebody had some wild technology back then because they were able to carve that out. Someone had some pretty wild technology, and it wasn't just boats like this. Uh, and here we have some bridges, and here we had a huge lake inside Nicaragua. And something that is our favorite to do is doing some translations. All right, so one of the phrases on the map here is right up here. Okay, and this is again Latin. It's not Spanish, it's not French, it's Latin. If you're French, you think it's Spanish. If you're Spanish, you think it's Latin. And if you're, I mean, you think it's French. And if you're an American, you think it's Spanish. You're convinced it's Spanish. I've had people telling me it's Spanish, but the detection is Latin and goes to English. And basically it says the ships of the sea often sail to Cartagena, where they spend 40 days, and then return to Cartagena, where they spend some time at Havana. They meet a few ships of the class of 10 to cross Jera so they may receive the reward from that region. So this is um, speaking of getting monies, rewards from people of regions. So this is how they were paying off Europe and keeping Europe over there. And also the quote unquote pirates, who are these guys, attacking anything and everything that comes around here. So this, by what they tell us, is 1500s, 1600s. And uh, mining was done downward, as this shows. They're pulling rock and getting stuff out, and mining was done like this. So they definitely had metal. They were chipping away into the mountain. And the other thing you notice are these Indians. Are these giants, or is it just that they're closer to the people, the person drawing, and these guys are farther away? There's two things that I have question about. One is, are they in fact giants? And two, look at the perfect um, muscle structure as compared to everybody else. So these are definitely warriors of some kind, and they're using bow and arrows. So I'm not seeing anything of gunpowder here, and just brute force labor. You have laborers, and then you have management. It's always been that way. Row ships and sailboats. And let's pull up our translator for Panama. Text. Let's choose Latin. English. Panama. Yes, we are. Filipino. Let me do this. There we go. So capitalization affects the word. So Panama is for you in Latin. Isn't that interesting? So translation of this area is for you, Panama. I bet you this area was heavily defended and a state secret, a world secret until the new Panama Canal was created. And yes, so this map, take a picture of it, look it up. Regni Mexicani, and you can add Nova Hispania. And look how the A is done in the AE in the Latin way. But again, we have Indians. Don't know if they're giant, and this is indicating the resources that are coming out of here: tobacco, rope, rum, but also giant bars of silver. And these big old Indians have their feet on it. So are these the Latins? Have we been totally deceived? Because I have a very strong, strong, strong feeling that the Latins were in fact giants. And if you spend any time in the city of Santiago de Compostela, you will know that that city was made for giants. All the temples and buildings, old stone buildings, have giant doorways, entrances for people that are way larger than the 5'6", 5'5" that I am now. So they may have dressed like that, and they may have used bows and arrows and be genetically perfect. It's a big possibility. So they look like they're running the show. These two guys, they don't look like poor Indians being taken advantage of anything, and they're giving the silver to keep the silence, and they're getting some resources back. So this is the map, and it tells quite a story. Oh, also furs coming from here, and cotton, bales of cotton. A lot of areas called the bread. Here's my stomping grounds, Louisiana. Natchez is a name here and still exists today. Ah, yes, le panis, the bread. So there's all kind of places called the bread around here, and I guess that has to do with farming for wheat and the expansion from our original map as they went up in to create Nova Biscaya. The equator, it just hit me. That's how the human mind works. The equator, that's what Tropicus Canceri is. The equator. So at the equator, wild enough, Nova Galicia ends and Nova Vizcaya begins at Zacatecas. Very interesting. And here is Nova Hispania. If it was Spanish, it would be Nueva España, but it's Latin, so it's New Hispania, talking about the people that lived and managed the Western Empire from the Iberian Peninsula. Okay, so that's where this is coming from. The Romans had a great life and lifestyle in Spain. Everybody does. It's all about lifestyle here. That's why I'm here. So, um, yeah, yeah, Latin America, 100% Latin America. And the Latins created the American language, the English language. That's why it's both Latin and America. Breadcrumbs Project doing its thing. 33 minutes and 33 seconds long, and I'll be cutting it at 33 minutes just to be weird. All right, guys, thank you very much. See you.